What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to Mike Dub 27 Day Trader. And today we are looking at the watch list for the week. Now, today we're going to look at actually some stocks. One in particular, RVPH, which is on my watch list. Now, the reason I say RVPH is because if you look at the price right there, is at 31 cents. Now, obviously, because it's a penny stock, you want to be careful with it. But this is one of those penny stocks we've already seen the bottom, and all the news is good right now. Now it's at 31 or it's at 30 cents after hours right now. And this started back on the second. And then it just kept going up and it just kept going up to the point to where it kind of peaked out at 30 cents. This is one of those, though, I would definitely not buy it at 30 cents. What I would do is wait for it to fall right back down to like that 20 something mark. Matter of fact, when you go back here and see where it's at around 27, the low 27s, that's it. That's probably the best point of entry. Just because stocks like this, they don't really take off, especially when they've already rose in the after hours and things like that. So I would definitely wait for this to drop back down to about 27 cents, 26.9, something like that. But definitely the low 27 cents. And then just go ahead and swing trade it back up. This is a swing trader unless it makes like some crazy improvements throughout the day that you just can't ignore. It's definitely one of those where you get in at 27 cents, you set your automatic sell at 30 cents, and then eventually you'll get an alert on your phone that says the stock sold. You know, it's not going to move too different or too extreme because of that. Reviva to present at the SACS ninth Annual Neuroscience Innovation Forum. So maybe they'll say something at that particular forum. Maybe they won't. Who knows? Not really any recent news going on right now. But going back, you know, to the stock, let me pull it right back up. This is one of those where, your movement, even with the 52-week range, doesn't really go too far down from where it's at. I say 27 cents is kind of where it's testing right now. But even if it hits 25 cents, it continues to shoot back up to 28, 29, 30 cents. Maybe one day it'll hit $2 again, but that's hope, and we don't trade off of hope. We trade off of the technicals. Now there's another stock down here that's making some moves, and that's TNMG. Now we looked at TNMG, which is TNL Media Gene, a couple of days ago. Matter of fact, let's go 5 days ago, and it was at $2.53. And as you can see, it's been very volatile to the point right now it's at $2.88 after hours. This is one of those I like to get into when it gets down to that 260, 250 mark. Maybe 260 because sometimes it doesn't flatline at 250, but it'll rest right there between 260, 255, and the next thing you know, it jumps up to 290. So those are one of those. Nothing's really changed here as far as news is concerned. TNL Media Gene releases H2 and 2025 corporate update presentation to shareholders. We've already seen this, just talking about the growth and things like that. But that's another one as far as the stocks go that we're looking at. And then Medline. Now, this actually isn't necessarily a bad thing. Under Armour isn't bad either, but you know what? Let's look at Under Armour first. This is Under Armour, basically clothing apparel. And it actually dropped, I want to say, under $5 last week to 4.97, which would have been a perfect time to get in. I was already in, so it's neither here nor there. But then it jumped up to $5.44, 45 cents. This is one of those, Under Armour's continue to grow. At one point in time, they had Steph Curry is their ambassador, but since then they went their separate ways. But the thing with Under Armour is when you look at that market cap, 2.24 billion, there's still room for growth. It could catch up one day with Nike, but that's neither here nor there. A lot of times, stuff like this doesn't catch up until they get past earnings or something like that, just because it's an apparel company. So this right here is definitely like a day trading type of stock. You get in when it drops down to around 5, get out when it hits whatever the usual top is. It looks right there. It says 545, but I won't wait for that. That's one of those when the whole market's going up. Around 530 will probably be the best way to I would go for it. So between $5 and 530, $5 and 530, $5 and 530, and just wash, rinse, and repeat. Just because unless somehow Under Armour does something crazy and goes out of business, they're not really doing too. They're not going to have too many drastic drops, kind of like Nike would. Under Armour jumps 14% as large investors boost stake. So you see right there that people are starting to take a look at Under Armour. It says right here, a 10% owner brought 13.2 million Under Armour shares for 67.4 million, and that's from the Motley Fool. And then, all the other news is saying the same thing. Under Armour soars 8.6%. That was back on 4 days ago. And you can see right here with the 52-week range between 413 and 872. So there's some potential for it to go up even more. The 1-year target estimate is 607, and it's still at 529. So there's some potential right there. The bid 533, ask 538. That tells you everything you need. But the biggest thing is just the fact that it likes to fluctuate between 5 and 530. That'd be one of the best ways that I would play it. And when you actually zoom out, even over the last month, Under Armour's been going in the right direction. A couple dips here and there, but it continues to go in the right direction. So it could be long term too. When you look at it, I mean, if you go back a year, let's do 6 months. At one point in time, it was at $7.38. I wonder if that happened, that dip happened right there when Steph Curry left them. It may have. And then you go out 1 year, it was at $8.63. Go out 5 years, it's at $27.02. So, there's some potential for it to make that up. It started at $2.66. So right there we can see the potential for growth for Under Armour. And I think that's it. Those are the main stocks that I'm looking at, this week coming up. Of course, you got Apple. Apple's going to do what it's going to do. Apple's one of those I'll wait until right before it's time for them to come out with maybe a new tablet or a new phone. Then you go ahead and jump on it. Other than that, Apple, it's a slow mover, but it's a steady mover. Apple's one of those, truthfully, if I was to get into Apple, it would be for the dividends. All right, because if you look at that yearly target estimate is good, 287, but you got a dividend of $1.04, which means each $270 represents $1 that they're going to give to you. So that lets you know how much you could buy of this to basically put yourself on payroll. But other than that, those are my watches for the week. And just make sure you continue to trade. Don't forget to like, don't forget to follow. This is Mike Dub 27 Day Trader, and I'm out. Deuces.